Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of the Cool Sports Network. I am your host, Chase Coburn, and today I am joined by a very special guest, a roadrunner for the Fairfield University Stags women's basketball team, an All-MAAC honoree, and the leader of this Fairfield team. Meghan Andersen, thank you for joining me today ahead of your NCAA tournament matchup against Kansas State. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
I'm glad you're here. MAAC championship, back-to-back years. You've been in collegiate basketball 2 years, both with Fairfield. Both years you cut down the nets. What are the emotions after winning for a second straight year?
I mean, it was surreal. It really was like the best experience that I could really have, especially being able to do that with this team and this coaching staff. Like they're like a second family to me. So it's just like knowing like all the hard work and like dedication that we put on throughout the year, like benefited us and like came out and paid off. Really meant a lot.
I see the way that you and your team and the coaching staff, just the way you all communicate with each other, and it just seems like a great community. Talk to me about what you guys do off the court that just makes it such a great environment to be a part of, and how that allows you to play your best basketball on the court.
Yeah, honestly, that kind of is just a reflection of Coach Carly and our coaching staff. It's they told me when I was being recruited here that they wanted to build a very like family oriented atmosphere, and like you could see that on the court. Like that's exactly what this culture is. But like the way we kind of build that is just like anytime we have the opportunity to do something together, like we're doing it. Like it might not be a full team activity, but we'll be texting in our group chat, hey, we're going to be doing this. Like, if you want to come join us. And like, we just take every opportunity to be with each other and really like don't take anything for granted.
It's amazing, and it's so exciting that you guys are all able to do this together and have this kind of success. Obviously, you want to be hyped. I saw the videos, you and your team kind of singing Dancing Queen, just all the excitement on the bus as you came back to Fairfield from Atlantic City. How do you control those emotions, though? Because you want to be really hyped, but you also know there's more work to be done and there's more this team wants to accomplish this year. So how do you kind of get refocused and again, just kind of focused on that task of beating Kansas State this Friday?
Yeah, coach kind of gives us like she said before, like take the day, like the rest of the day, like until like midnight for the win, and then the next day like lock into the next part of our journey and like the Kansas State game.
Right.
So ever since like we celebrated, like we were happy, we had so much fun. But then the next day, Selection Sunday, we were locked in and we've just been ready to go since then.
For the first two games of the MAAC tournament, Manhattan and Mount St. Mary's they kept it close with your team. They both took leads in the second half. Fairfield fans, some were kind of like shocked there because you guys had just run the floor in your conference play, going 19-1. How did those two nail biters though prepare your team for the championship matchup against Quinnipiac, where your team played one of your best games of the season?
Yeah, it kind of just showed us where we need to like focus. So like obviously our shots weren't falling, but at the end of the day, that's not we were worried about because I know like I trust our offense, I trust our team, and I have confidence in that. But I think at the end of the day, it was our defense that we really needed to lock in on. So we kind of like just watched film and talked to like our coaches, our position coaches, figuring out like what it was that we necessarily didn't do like correct or like to like our best ability in those two games, and kind of just like fix them in the Quinnipiac game.
I mentioned how you did this in 2024. You did it in 2025. We're going to talk about the improvements you've made in your game, but how has the journey kind of differed between last year and this year? Last year kind of being the new Cinderella, the new hot thing on the block, winning all your conference games. It was an unbelievable season. You do something very similar again, but now you have that target on your back. How did these two seasons, while you got to the same place, what are their similarities and differences that allowed you to get to the same point?
Yeah, I mean, differences is we had a new team this year. We added new players to the team. So I think just like we were a different team. Like we had similar like we had the same standards, the same culture, like all of that. But just like adding in the new players to our team, they were a huge part of our success this year. And I think differences. Well, no, that was differences. Sorry. Like similarities. I honestly think it was just like the way we play as a team. Like it's always been about like our chemistry, our connections on the court. Like you can see how like that has such a great impact on us. And it just shows like when we point to the passer, when we're just like getting hyped for each other, it just brings so much more energy. Like we had so much fun out there on Saturday, and like that shows like in how we play.
It did show in how you play. Obviously, you were fantastic on Saturday, and we'll break that down real quick. We have to touch on it. Janelle Brown was a key part of what your team did last season. MAAC Player of the Year. She goes down in early December with a season-ending injury, and just like any team would, of course, you win 22 of your next 24 games after it. So, how did your team kind of respond to Nellie's injury and play your best basketball despite losing one of your key pieces, both on the court and while she's still making an impact off the court? You could never on the court presence.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it hurts whenever you lose anybody, but especially like a player like Nelly, like, that definitely, like, it hurt, but I think, like, the great thing about our team is that at any moment, like, someone can step up, it could be their game, like, I mean, the championship game, Sydney Scott went 6 for 6 from 3, like, she stepped up big time for us, so, like, I feel like that's, like, where we kinda filled in the gaps of missing Nelly, but she still finds her way to still be that key, like, member of this team through, like, her leadership and, like, being vocal off the court.
For you, you were in the running for MAC Player of the Year this year. You put up 27 in the closing game in the championship game. You were first team All-MAAC. The counting stats look pretty similar, but obviously you've made a lot of strides in your game between year one and year two. What are the improvements you believe you made in your game, and how are you able to make those improvements?
Um, I think one of my biggest improvements have been on the defensive end. Obviously, there's still ways like I still want to improve way more than I'm at right now, but I think I've definitely taken strides in that. Like we do extra work like before practice almost every day with Coach E. Like a bunch of us from the team do, honestly. But I think that's definitely brought a big part of me because like one of our things is our offense comes from our defense. Like I get more confidence in myself like when I make stops on the defensive end. So I think being able to like bring that over to the offensive end has really brought up my confidence. And then I think I've also, like I'm starting to come off more ball screens now, like, I'm doing more than just, like, settling for shots, I feel like. But I think, like, just adding more parts to my game, like, coming off the drive has been a big part of my game.
Going back to the MAC tournament, 4 of 11 against Manhattan, 2 of 11 against Mount St. Mary's, 10 of 15, 4 of 6 from 3, and the 27 points, and 2 steals, as I mentioned, from you in the championship. How were you able to change the way you were playing in an instant from Friday to Saturday?
Honestly, it was just, I'd say it was the energy and, like, the, confidence I gained for my team, being able to, like, be out there and play with them and playing our Fairfield basketball because I don't think we really showcased, like, who we were in the first 2 games of the tournament, but I think, like, that championship game really showed, like, who we are and, like, how we wanna play. So I think that kinda, like, helped me kinda find, like, my place in the game.
Your team won last year. You made it to the NCAA tournament. You had that 33-point loss to Indiana. Coach Carly mentioned in the post-game press conference after winning the championship how that number 33 has kind of stuck with you, how that 33-point loss has affected this team. You guys have used that number in drills as just kind of a reminder of the place you wanted to get back to. Now that you are back here in the NCAA tournament, what will your team have to do differently? Obviously, you can't control what your opponent does, but in terms of yourself, what is your team going to have to do differently on your end if you want a different result in the first round this year?
Yeah, I mean, a whole part of the whole 33 thing was just, like, showcasing how teams of that level, like Indiana, Kansas State, like, they're going to exploit our vulnerabilities, they're gonna take advantage of them, so, I think a big part of that is just, going back to, like, being disciplined and knowing, like and doing, like, what we can control, like, controlling our own controllables. Because at the end of the day, like, those are the things that, like, we have control of, like, Kansas State doesn't have control of, like of those type of things. So I think, like, obviously, we can't control what they do, like you said, but we can kind of just focus on what makes us a great basketball school, like a great basketball team.
You just mentioned it. Kansas State's going to present many challenges. I mean, that's a very tough team you're going against a 26-7 regular season. How is your team game planning both mentally and physically for the challenges they'll present?
Yeah, I mean, I think just going into it knowing that, like, this is we don't want this to be the last game with this team, we don't want this to be the last game for our seniors, and just going in there and giving it everything we got because, like, we wanna win, like, yeah, we wanted to win the MAC tournament, but at the end of the day, like, we wanna get wins in March Madness and the NCAA tournament, so I think kinda just going in with that mindset.
Center Ayoka Lee is set to return from injury for the Wildcats. She's been a dominant force down low. How will your team try to limit the success of the 6'6" all conference center and the many other playmakers that are on this Kansas State team?
I mean, I think just playing our defense and just being, like, very, focused on being in the right spot at the right time and not, like, um, making, like, little mistakes that they could exploit.
How is your team preparing kind of in this stretch? It's obviously a quick turnaround. You witnessed it during the MAC tournament. How does your team prepare so quickly for a game of this magnitude?
Yeah, that's a great thing about our coaches, like, they're always ready, like, they're ready for this game, and I think another like, they get us locked in, they get us ready for, these type of moments, and also just, like, the motivation that we have, behind this game has been a big part of, like, getting us ready for it.
It's so interesting. The entire season with the success you had last year, the pieces you returned, and the pieces that this team added this year, in most conference games, if not all conference games, Fairfield was viewed as a favorite. Your team was the favorite. Now you go to the NCAA tournament, you're playing a team with national championship aspirations, a great team with many talented players, and you come in as an underdog. How do you kind of flip your mindset now that the target's not on your back and now you're trying to pull off a miracle upset that many teams tried to pull off against you this year?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we just want to play Fairfield basketball. I think like that's where our strengths are. So I think that's really what our focus is, like not worrying too much about like the outside perspective, who's rooting for us, who's rooting against us, kind of just taking everything in stride and just going with it.
Meghan, we're just a few days away from your game in Lexington. Fairfield has never won a game in the NCAA tournament, and now you're here for a second straight season with an opportunity to do so. What would it mean for you, and what would it mean for Coach Carly? What would it mean for this program to get that win on Friday?
I mean, I think it'd mean everything. Like this is what we do it for. And I think especially like for Fairfield, like it would really put us on the map as a program. And honestly, like our Coach Carly works so hard for us. It's not about she doesn't make it about her. She really cares so much about this team. So to be able to do that for her would mean everything to me.
And not to mention, we've heard the rumors of how other schools, power conference schools, had interest in Coach Carly after the success she's had with Fairfield, and it doesn't look like she's going anywhere anytime soon. What does it tell you about how determined your coach is to winning with this program?
I mean, like I said, like our culture is a reflection of her. Like she loves this team like it's her family, and like that's kind of just like that's how we are. Like we love each other like we're family. So I think her wanting to stay here and her wanting to build this program up is just a reflection of that.
Meghan, we look forward to watching you and the Stags roll against Kansas State on Friday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN News. Any final words?
No, I mean just if you could watch the game, that'd be great. We'd love the support.
Awesome. Meghan Andersen, thank you so much for joining me. Congratulations on all of your success, and we look forward to what's coming up, whether it's going to be in the NCAA tournament or in future years. We wish you the best of luck the rest of the season and on Friday against Kansas State. We appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We're going to wrap it up here alongside one of the top players in the MAAC and one of the leaders of this Fairfield Stags team, 28-4 in a MAAC championship this year. Meghan Andersen, I'm your host, Chase Coburn. Signing off. Again, be sure to watch the Stags face off with Kansas State, 2:30 p.m. Eastern on Friday on ESPN News. Take care.